Here is every single Deadlock hero summarized and well explained in about 30 seconds. Abrams, besides being the bane of my existence, Abrams is a high damage, high sustain, close range tank. All about fisting. His first ability, lifesteals in an AoE, focusing enemy players rather than minions or creeps. His second ability is a charge slam, where if you hit an enemy into the wall, well, they're stunned. His third ability, which is a passive, so ability you don't actually have to activate, it grants health regeneration and some damage mitigation, so some defense. His ultimate is you jump up into the air like Kobe and well dunk on people. Bebop kidnaps people, so hide your wife, hide your kids. His third ability is a hooking ability, which pulls enemies from a large range and well brings them to you. His first ability is an uppercut, which allows you to knock enemies or friendlies away from yourself. His second ability is a bomb. That's really just it. It's a bomb. Slap it onto people, slap it on yourself, and go crazy. His last ability is a laser that well does a lot of damage. While using it, there's also a small AoE, so keep that in mind. Dynamo is kind of a jack of all trades, does essentially everything and some damage. His first ability is a knockup that also deals damage. His second ability is a TP, either TP yourself or even your teammates. This is great for both engaging fights and disengaging from fights. His third ability is a healing ability, which heals himself and his teammates, so it's really good to have in lane. His last ability is called Singularity, basically to suck everyone in an AoE into you, while in the ability they can't shoot or anything like that, so again it's really great to have this ability in a large team fight. Ray Talon, Sova, Hanzo, Legolas, whatever you want to call him. Besides being my favorite character, Ray Talon's first ability is a charged arrow, which deals damage to enemies. It also pierces multiple enemies at one time, and it scales with spirit. His second ability, Rain of Arrows, makes you jump into the air and shoot arrows down like an A10 warthog. His third ability is a hunter's trap, where people get stuck in an icky sticky trap. After about 30 seconds it will disappear. His fourth ability is essentially a predator missile from Modern Warfare 2. You shoot an eagle into the air, control it however you want, hit an enemy with it, well then it deals a significant amount of damage and it stuns. Haze, or the person that loses lane and then AFK farms and one-taps your team. Haze's first ability is a sleep dag, which well puts enemies to sleep when you hit it with them. This has the hitbox of a truck, so it's pretty impossible to miss. Her second ability is a smoke bomb, which makes you invisible for a certain duration, and it gives you a little bit of increased speed. Her third ability is another passive, which stacks damage, making you do more damage over time on any enemy. Her ultimate ability is a Beyblade. Basically, you're spinning around in a circle, destroying the entire enemy team. Or you're a 0-12 Haze that goes in and tries to do it and instantly dies. Infernus is well fire, get it? Fire. And he's also super broken. Infernus's first ability is a projectile, you yeet it out, and it amplifies the fire damage from his kit. Second ability is a Naruto run that leaves a fire trail behind, and you can also speed it up so you can go supersonic speeds. Third ability again is a passive ability called Afterburn that applies stacks as you deal damage to an enemy, and it's completely not broken. Again, not broken. His ultimate ability is an AoE stun that takes a little bit to charge up. Ivy is a little ratty boy, or her, not really sure. Ivy's first ability is a bomb that you throw that summons Ivy vines that slows and deals damage. Ivy's second ability is a little tether or Ivy strand, whatever you want to call it. Basically stick it to a teammate and well you both heal. Ivy's third ability turns herself into a golem or a statue, making her invulnerable, and you can crash down on enemies, which will deal damage and stun. Her ultimate ability turns her into a Apache attack helicopter. You can fly around, drop bombs, or even pick up your teammates. Kelvin is essentially Frozo from The Incredibles. His first ability is a frozen grenade or whatever it's called. Basically throw it at an enemy, it slows and deals damage, or if you throw it at a teammate, heal them. His second ability is well Frozo from The Incredibles. Press it and go ahead and start skating around the map. His third ability is a freeze beam that deals 80% slow. Again, 80%. His ultimate ability is a cage. Either use it as an epic 1v1 stage, or if you're super low on HP, go ahead and use it, as it will fully heal you. Mcginnis is essentially Torbjorn, and someone you can pick and go AFK with. Her first ability is a turret that deals damage to any enemies that are on the map, of course within a certain range. Her second ability is a little AoE heal that heals nearby allies, even sometimes your turrets. Her third ability is the Great Wall. Summon a massive wall that stuns and damages enemies if they are hit by it. Her ultimate abilities are Artillery Barrage that feels like you're back in the trenches, sending mortars down everywhere. Will and Krill, besides being not fun to play against, their first ability deals damage to enemies in an AoE and at the same time heals himself. His second ability is a Burrow where he takes little to no damage, but of course can still take damage. The third ability, besides being the most broken thing I've ever witnessed in this game, is this thing called Pocket Sand. Throw Pocket Sand at enemies, and well, the enemies are disarmed for a certain amount of time. Their ultimate ability is a close range stun. It's a single target stun, and the enemy will be stunned for the entire duration of the ultimate. Paradox, besides sounding like they have the thickest Canadian accent, Paradox is essentially Doctor Strange on crack. Paradox's first ability is a time grenade that you throw out, deals damage over time, and it also slows. Her second ability is a Fortnite wall, where you or your teammates can shoot through it, but enemies cannot. Her third ability, the Kinetic Carbine, is a charge up that stuns when upon fired. Now when it's fully charged, move around at the speed of sound, and be able to stun at least one person. Her ultimate ability is a swap. Throw it at an enemy and swap positions with them. Really great way to use it is throw down the wall, then swap positions. Pocket is the movement character of this game. Pocket's first ability shoots projectiles, it slows the enemies and deals a ton of damage, and it also gives you a buff that makes you do more damage. Pocket's second ability is a cloak that you send out. I would say it's a medium-sized AoE that moves in a straight line, and you can also TP to it using the same exact button that you use to cast it out. Pocket's third ability is a briefcase. You turn yourself into a briefcase, taking no damage, unless for instance Bebop or someone put a bomb on you before you go in. And when you pop out of it, surprise, you do a ton of AoE damage. Pocket's ultimate ability, Affliction, does a large damage AoE over time that does a ton of damage. However, if you're low, say you get down to 1 HP, it will not go any further. You will not die from this ability. If you did, I wouldn't be playing this game. 7. People that usually play 7 either go 20-0 or 0-20. 7's first ability is a lightning bolt, and it's a line ability, meaning it goes in a straight line when casted. When it hits any type of enemy player or unit, it slows down, dealing damage over time. It then continues. His second ability is a charge stun that when cast on an enemy will take a little bit, then deals a stun. He can also hit surrounding enemies if they're caught within the area as well. His third ability empowers his rifle and giving you essentially chain lightning from Star Wars. Ever wanted to become Emperor Palpatine? His fourth ability is a giant AoE storm cloud that deals a ton of damage to enemies that are in the line of sight or not behind cover. Shiv, or what I like to call Elvis Presley, he does a lot of damage. Even after the recent patch, he still does a lot of damage. Once he unlocks his ultimate, he gets a rage bar. It's essentially a passive that lets you do more damage as you progressively get the bar full. His first ability is a serrated knife. Throw it at someone and just like IRL, they take damage initially and they will start bleeding. Don't ask me how I know that. His second ability is a dash that deals damage. When his rage bar is full, it'll essentially be 2 dashes in one. His third ability essentially converts incoming damage to damage over time, but that's only a little bit of damage. His final ability is an assassinate or an execute that resets all if they're under a certain health threshold, and you know if they're in that threshold, you see like a red triangle appear over them. Vindicta is a sniper, think of it as an ADC, kind of like Caitlyn from League of Legends. Her first ability is a stake, because she's a vampire, get it? You throw it. If people are caught in the AoE, then well, they're tethered for a little bit and disarmed. No movement abilities are allowed within the tether, and it applies other debuffs. Her second ability is flight, basically fly up and down, deal extra spirit damage, be able to reposition yourself and all that jazz. Her third ability is a Krill that on impact deals damage and bounces off enemies like a pinball machine that again does spirit damage. Her ultimate ability is a sniper. When enemies are at 50% or below, deal extra damage with the sniper. Most of the time you can expect it as a one shot unless you're under leveled. Viscous, or the boogeyman you always were afraid of in the closet. Besides having the most high pitched voice I've ever heard, his first ability is a goo ball. Throw it out, deal damage in an AoE, and it slows enemies that are still on it. His second ability, which turns you into a funny looking geometrical shape, can be applied both to himself and to teammates, purging any debuffs, protects them from any incoming damage, and if cast on Viscous himself, heals you. His third ability is a giant fist that fists your enemies, and you can also fist yourself. You can use it for movement or just dealing damage to enemies and putting them out of position. His ultimate ability is pretty useless. Turn yourself into a goo ball, roll around. If you hit enemies with it, they get stunned for a little bit, and if you hit walls, you bounce off of it. Other than using it to get out, there's really no other reason to use it. Warden, besides laying down the law and handcuffing you, pretty much all you do is roll your face across the keyboard, and you deal a lot of damage. His first ability is a flask or a grenade, whatever you want to call it. It damages, slows, and reduces the weapon damage and stamina of enemies that are set in it. The second ability gives them bonus spirit power and movement speed. His third ability curses a target, forcing them to get out of the area that has been placed up. If they're not successful and able to get out of the area, well then they're stunned or he gets chained for a little bit. His ultimate ability is a charge up. You summon the souls of the people you locked behind prison. On the activation after the charge up, it does a pulse damage that damages nearby enemies while healing you based on the damage done to the enemies at that time. If you roll your face across your keyboard fast enough while using your ulti, you do a ton of damage and you pretty much won't die. Wraith is simple and probably one of the characters I recommend when you're first playing the game. Her first ability is a card that you throw out and it will move however your mouse is going, so the ultimate tracking test. But to be able to actually use the cards, you have to deal enough damage to fill up the bar, then well you can throw the cards. Her second ability is a TP. You throw it out and TP to the location. Her third ability, full auto, increases her fire rate and her teammates inside of the AoE as well. Her ultimate ability is a stun. You send out a chain. The chain chases them, lifts them up to the air, stuns them for a little bit, then slams them back down to the ground, dealing a little bit of damage. Yamato, are you coming from Overwatch and want to fulfill your Genji desires? Or you just like samurais and looking like a string bean? Then Yamato's for you. Her first ability is a channel. Basically power up this slash, and on full charge up, release the slash doing a lot of damage. Her second ability is a grapple. Now the grapple is kind of crazy. The enemy you grapple onto, you can be taken anywhere across the map as long as you grappled first. Now when you actually get to the target, it does a little bit of damage and it slows the enemy once she arrives. I've even seen my friend get grappled all the way to the enemy spawn while using the grapple. Her third ability is a cone attack that if enemies are within the cone deals damage and slows the enemy's rate of fire. And she gets healed per enemy hero hit. and her ultimate makes her temporarily invulnerable as she charges up her ultimate, which then resets all of her cooldowns on her other abilities. Lady Geist, besides moving at negative speed, her first ability consumes some of her health and you throw a bomb that does damage in an AoE that has crazy range. Her second ability is a suck. Start sucking off your enemies and enemy minions while gaining HP back. Her third ability, throw out some shards. They deal damage and add stack. The stacks increase your damage that you do to them, and well, you just do a lot of damage. Her ultimate ability is you swap HP with the person that you targeted, but you have to stay within the circle to keep the HP. And Lash is probably gotta be one of the most annoying characters in this game. He's high movement, high burst damage. His first ability is a cone attack that does damage in front of him. That does quite a lot of damage. If you're up in the air and using your grapple, you can then slam down onto people. That does more damage. Depending on how high you are in the air means how much damage you're going to be doing. His second ability allows you to swing like Tarzan around the map. It allows you to recharge stamina bars as it doesn't cost any stamina. His third ability is another cone attack that steals the enemy's HP and gives it to yourself. His ultimate ability allows you to target enemies in the air. You pull them up to you, say some sweet nothings into their ear, then throw them down to the ground at supersonic speed, dealing a lot of damage. And enemies can be thrown pretty much anywhere. But hey, if you made it this far and enjoyed this video, why not subscribe? And if you liked the video, well, why not like it? I have a ton more other Deadlock content, so make sure to check it out.